The most obvious and also the most confusing is looks. These things can be super clean like these are. These got some work done to them. The mats got replaced, the seat covers got replaced. Super simple to do, but don't let looks deceive you, because these things can run absolutely terrible and look like they're brand new and kept in a garage, but that's not going to help you when you're on the water and the thing's not running right. So a couple things to look for aesthetic wise. Even if one's a little more beat up than this, there's still some work you can do to get them running. But the most important thing on looks is not the mats or the seat covers, because that's easy to replace, but you got to come down here and make sure there are no cracks in the hull. A little bit of fiberglass missing from running into the beach is fine. It's just kind of smoothed out. It's not terrible, but this way you don't beat your skis. This is just a mark from hitting the rubber on the trailer, but make sure there's no big cracks in it, because if you take on water, it's an expensive, really expensive thing to have to fix. If you're going to listen to anything I have to say, and I mean anything, make sure that this point on the fuel system is ingrained in your head. When almost anything marine, anything with a motor needs a good fuel system, but especially these guys with these older carburetors, the fuel system needs to be clean, good lines, good everything, and I'll explain it right now. Down here is the fuel tank itself. This is the fill hose. The tank itself, make sure it's clean. The floats on the device that measures the fuel level for the electronics can go bad, and you'll see a lot of black material down at the bottom of the tank. I'm telling you guys, empty out the tank. Just do it. Once you know that you have a good clean tank with fresh fuel pre-mix, because I mix it, but even if you don't mix it, fresh fuel, it's clean, that is the best start. And then I go ahead and do the extra. You don't necessarily have to, but I always replace the fuel lines. I do all of them, just because I can see with these clear lines if there's any air bubbles getting in the fuel line. And also this fuel filter is very important. It can collect a lot of junk and it will restrict the flow to the carburetors, causing a lean condition or bogging or just not running right. The fuel selector switch, there is a rubber piece inside here that can go bad, and the reason you can tell if this is bad is if you're having bogging issues or air in the line, you can actually just take a hose, hook it directly to the reserve line on the tank itself to the carb, and you can tell that way if you're getting good clean flow, then there's something wrong with the selector switch. And then also another point to pay attention to is the return line. Make sure that the carburetor is pushing extra fuel back into the tank, because this is a pressurized system, and the carbs pressurize the fuel tank. So make sure that this is getting fuel flowing back to the tank. If not, you're gonna have issues. And there's also a check valve which comes right off the tank, which is right there. That allows air in but doesn't allow air to escape, and it runs all the way back on this one right here. That's the line for it, but the check valves can also go bad. The most important is your carburetors, guys. These are the most important thing to this whole entire ski. If these are bad, it will cause it to be lean, which can cause it to blow up. It can cause it to be too rich, which will also cause bogging issues. It won't start easily. You shouldn't have to sit there and crank the thing 10 times for it to get started. Something's wrong with your fuel system. Even though these are older skis, don't believe the myth that they take a long time to start. They should not take forever to start if it's tuned properly and these are taken apart properly. Go ahead and buy yourself a rebuild kit, and then check the pop-off pressure. If you don't know how to use that, pretty simple. There's videos on it. I'm actually gonna make a video on this one because it's running too rich. So the springs aren't as high of a weight as I thought they were, but check the pop-off pressure, get a gauge. It'll save you a lot. Basically, if the pop-off is too low, the spring is allowing too much fuel to enter too quickly, and it will cause a rich condition. And if the spring is too high, again, this is just from idle to about 1/8 of a throttle according to the Mikuni manual. If the spring is too high, it will not be allowing enough fuel, causing a lean condition. And if you're out there and you have to play with the trigger and then it finally gets up and goes, that's great, until that little lean hesitation, you do it over and over again, it'll eventually cause the top end to destruct itself. So please take these apart, clean them, and when you go to the high speed screw and the low speed screw, adjust it to what the manufacturer says. You should not have to go way in or way out. They give you a quarter turn of play once you get it set, and that's it. If you have to do more than that, either the pop off is wrong or you didn't rebuild these right, because you should not have to adjust it so much past the manufacturer recommendations. The reed valves, if you don't know what these are, almost all 2-strokes have them. I think all 2-strokes have them. They should be completely flat like this. These are just guards for them. They should be completely flat. If there's any nick in any of this, it will allow back pressure into the carbs, which can cause a runaway. It can cause hard starts, bad idling. It can cause all sorts of issues. And I just go ahead and take these off and check them when I do the carb rebuild. You just got to make sure you buy a new intake gasket for it, but I check it while it's apart anyway, just to make sure they're good. And these in fact are still good. So if you want to know what they should look like, all of this silver flat is perfectly intact, and they're pressing on it itself, and it's great. Whenever these things are not running, hook them up to a charger. If not, they're gonna die. The Jetski has a stator which basically maintains the battery level. I don't think it charges it. So if your stator's bad, your battery will keep dying when you go out there and start. That's the sign of a bad stator. It just won't keep or maintain the battery level. But if you want good batteries that'll work every time, as soon as you get home, take them out, put them on a trickle charger, let them get back to full. Do not leave them in this thing. You'll be buying batteries every season. Unless you're lucky, you might be able to last 2. But if you take them out, it's just preventative maintenance from having you to buy a battery. It's 2 little screws and you can take this whole thing out. Thing that also gets overlooked is the steering cable. A way to test this is you go back and forth, and I go up on here and the handlebars are moving. Cable's pretty simple, but they're usually $100, so it's just another cost if the cable is bad. This one also has reverse, and it's the same thing. There's a lever up there, make sure it goes into reverse. This is something you can check just coming back here and wiggling it if you're going to purchase one, and make sure that your cable is good to go. Same thing with the throttle. You can see the flaps on the carb or the wire pull in to make sure all the cables are good to go. Shining light all the way back to the impeller, which is metal. You want to make sure that the clearance is pretty tight, and that there are no big nicks in the impeller, because that will cause it to not run to its full potential and you won't get up to speed as quickly. That's also something similarly easy. I mean, it's not the biggest thing in the world to replace, but it is something to check. You can check all this stuff on dry land. If you're going to purchase a ski or you have one yourself and you're having issues, this could be an issue on the top end. So it's not going above like 20 miles an hour when this thing should hit like 40. While you're in here too, feel free to pull the plugs. If the plugs, look, you can tell these are rich, they're loose. But if you want to tell if you're in a rich condition, look at that. Look how wet they are. That means it's running way too rich at idle, and it's getting too much fuel. But while you're in here, do a compression test too. You can pull numbers offline on what the PSI should be. Super easy. Disconnect the spark plugs, put the clip in the start button, screw in your compression gauge where this goes, and that way you can tell if you have good compression. And even more important than good compression is even numbers between both are pretty similar, like within 5 psi of each other. Electronics on this are super simple. There's a main fuse in this black box, and then there's also the starting relay, which these 2 plugs connect to. That's also a point that could go bad. Super simple to fix. Another reason this can bog or not run right is it gets choked out. So when the carbs are here and there's an air filter, it needs to suck in air from the engine bay. If there's any leak in this exhaust down here, and the exhaust comes back in here, if there's any leak at all and exhaust fumes are getting in here, it'll choke the motor out. The carburetors will be sucking in exhaust fumes instead of air like they're supposed to, and it will choke this thing out. Again, not as common, but I have seen it. People will buy these and then they'll let them sit during the winter, and when you let these things sit, this fuel will sit in the carbs and it won't be good. You'll go to start it in 6 months, and sure enough, the fuel that most places sell has ethanol in it. Most of us can't avoid it unless you live in certain areas where you can. If it sits in there for too long, it'll cause you to have to rebuild the carbs again. So I'm in a warm climate, I just go and start these every month or so. I put fuel stabilizer in the tank if it's going to sit, and that will also just be a form of preventative maintenance, so you don't have issues when you go to start these things in the spring or summer like so many people do. And that's pretty much it. The only thing that I always tell people is if you go out, it takes forever to start. You have to mess with the throttle for it to get up and go. If it has any bogging whatsoever, whether it's rich or lean, you need to get it fixed sooner than later, because if not, you're going to have catastrophic damage. It's not a matter of when. or it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You will have issues, especially if it's a lean hesitation. If this thing runs lean at all, even if it's just at eighth of a throttle and then goes away, it will blow up. But other than that, I don't want you guys to be scared of these things. It's a great hobby to get into. If you have any questions, you can feel free to let me know. I can answer any of them. These are the most common things that I've seen. I've done these for the last 6 years, taking them apart, and it's always number one, always fuel system. But if you have any questions, let me know, and don't be afraid to buy these things. They're a ton of fun, and you can go out and rip for, I don't know, some of these you can get for 500 bucks, 1,000, depending on where you're at. Here in California, it's a little bit more, even if they don't run. It's just everything's expensive here. But they are great toys to have, and we always have another boat because I love fishing, and no one else brings toys up in our family and friend group. So I like to be the guy that can bring other stuff for people for cheap. It's cheap fun. I can let them on these things. I'm not too worried about how they ride them because they were so cheap. I'm just want people to get into this hobby. It's super fun and super easy. So if you have any questions, let me know.